Let's go. Game time.
The standard is the standard. That's our motto. That's our creed. That's our approach. But it's just words.
Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Better Baby Daddy podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, John Laxman.
I'm your other co-host, Kelly Burgess, and I'm always laughing as we come into this open because we just usually say something funny.
At least something we think's funny. So today, B, we're going to hit him again because we just been hitting them with combos.
Okay. Wake up.
Wake up, get ready to run. A lot of men out there will say this: I die for my kids. Okay, cool. You would die for your kids, but are you willing to make changes for your children?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. That's it. We love the dramatic, dramatic moments, don't we? We love the stories about the heroic dude who just lays it all out, but it's those small decisions every day where you really die to yourself that make the difference.
Absolutely. And when we think about that, level one, right? Why do men romanticize that concept of sacrifice, but avoid the day-to-day discomfort that needs to occur for positive growth?
And I wish I knew the answer to that, right? Yeah, I've lived in that space, but I think part of us is wired to be heroic, to be sacrificial. Like that's in our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And so you read stories about, soldiers or men who just done just amazing things to get a business built or something like that. But then when it comes to these small adjustments that you have to make for other people, particularly their kids, it just doesn't seem as heroic. It's mundane.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the dark. You're not getting celebrated,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the rub. So that's my belief, but I don't know the full solution to it.
I think it's easy to say things and harder to do things in a lot of situations, right? It's easy to say, yo, I die for my kids. Yeah, I would sacrifice this. I would sacrifice that. And I think we were talking prior to actually starting the show here in the pre-show. And I said, I don't know a man that wouldn't say that.
Right.
That's a father.
Right.
That I've talked to throughout my entire life. Like, I don't know a man that would say, nah, sacrifice Megan first.
Like, we can have a kid first. I'm getting a life vest first.
Like,
right.
I don't know if I've ever met a man that's a father that would do that or say that. But you're right. It is that heroic aspect of things. It's that just saying that you feel empowered. But are you willing to get dirty on a daily basis to make the small incremental changes that are necessary for that growth?
Yeah.
And our society puts us in a weird position too.
Okay. How so?
Where you're supposed to be that type of man. You have to be that type of man. So you have to say those things, even if you don't feel them, but you should feel them, but you have to say those things because what type of man would not say that?
And when the chips are down, you want those kind of men to show up on the scene.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the stuff that went down in the Capitol, back, 4 years in J6. And this is way off topic, and you didn't know I was going to say this, but I was thinking about the different responses of different men in that situation. And I was like, what would I have done if, And so some of those cats in the chamber were like, hustling the ladies together and trying to protect them and getting ready to like throw down.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some other cats that were scurrying through the halls trying to find some cover, right? And it's like, you, like we said in the opening, your DNA as a man is to, when the chips are down, I'm gonna lay my life down. And the society wants that. We went through a period where it's like, that's a little too much, down. But the hard part is that our society is also very comfortable, at least in this country. Mm-hmm. And that just kind of lulls you to sleep because to be that kind of man, it's going to require pain and sacrifice and tension. And most of us don't want that. Don't wake up saying, I'm going to be more comfortable, have a little bit more tension and stress in my life so I can grow.
Yes.
It's just not natural. It's not the default.
And one of the really important things you said there is that heroic statement, those heroic actions get celebrated in public.
That's true. That's it.
Right? Those small day-to-day behavioral changes or habits that you're building happen in quiet. They happen in the dark.
Yeah.
There's no celebration for those things.
Yeah. Nobody's celebrating you because you read, a bedtime story to your daughter 365 days a year.
Oh.
Right. You're not getting no likes for that. Nobody cares about that. Mm-hmm. But that's a heroic thing. Mm-hmm. Like I'm shaping a young person and I'm building this bond with a young person. And so that's what we're talking about is developing that mindset that is where the glory is for you as a dad. That those unseen things that are so consistent. But Like you said, the other stuff is the stuff that gets likes and reposts.
Absolutely. One of the fundamental things that occur, in my opinion, is that there is a gap between our values as men and then our daily behaviors. I think most of us share the same fundamental values as a father and as a man.
Right.
We want happy children. We want to protect our children. We want to provide for our children. We want to do what's best for our children. I think most men that are fathers have that same concept, those
Right.
same fundamental values.
Right.
But the problem is there's a major gap between those values and what we do on a daily basis.
No doubt. Yeah. And that exists because I think at the base level, most of us are selfish. Like it takes something else to pull us out of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You would hope that marriage would pull you out of yourself where you're considering somebody else more than you. You would certainly hope that, man, once we have these little people that are completely dependent on us, it pulls us out of ourselves, right? And to a degree it does. But man, that selfish is the default setting. And then also it's hard, man. It's hard to aspire to things beyond your comfort level and consistently do the things that, like James Clear says, to make the votes to move towards that kind of identity. It is hard work because it takes so much consistency. And so I don't think it's a mystery is why it happens, but it definitely is the reality of, and there's a gap between what you said you're going to do, dog, and what's showing up.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, but we're wired as human beings from a historical and biological perspective to find the easiest pathway. And that's how our brains work.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, like, when we go all the way back to, caveman times, what was the easiest way to get food?
Right.
What was the easiest way to maintain safety?
To reproduce,
Right.
just to keep this thing moving. Yeah, and it's no different. It's just dressed up a different way now, right?
Yeah.
So given the choice between, to just talk about the reproduce thing, it's like, hey, I got some low-hanging fruit over here, and then there's a woman of value over here that's going to make me actually be like a man. It's like, it's only going to cost me a couple drinks and an appetizer. Like, why am I doing all this work? And I'm not saying do that. I'm saying the reality is that that's much less work, and dudes like doing less work.
It's the reward of attacking something that is so high. It's climbing that mountain.
Right.
The reward for this is immediate,
Yeah.
but it's not long lasting.
No, it isn't.
And there's no long-term gratification.
Right.
You're like, oh, another notch on the belt, essentially, right? But when I'm working towards someone that has real value,
Mhm.
and I build a sustainable, real connection because of the work I put in, that feels great.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think about my wife and I's marriage now, and you think about, you get every relationship, you hit dry patches, or you just hit, you're human.
Yeah.
And you're like, but then you look back over, yeah, we did that, man. We navigated that over COVID, or we had this difficult conversation that kind of grew our relationship. And you're like, yeah, we put in some work. There's some value in this thing. But it's too easy to get comfortable. And when you get comfortable, you'll say these grandiose things, but then your day-to-day behavior and votes say, you're really that. This is what you really believe. And when a man can come to that realization about himself, then it's like you're prepared to make some changes. Yeah. But until you don't, that gap there is your deception. That you think you're this because you said this, but you're really this. Let's move off the spot.
So let's connect this specifically to our interactions with children, our children, right? So our values in terms of what we aspire to provide for our children and instill in them, and then our daily behaviors. That dichotomy right there, that massive gap that occurs, how does that impact them?
Yeah, well, we talked about it a couple episodes ago. That reliability and that presence. Let's just start with that. So say you're a dad, our audience is mostly, single dads who do not have their kids at home. And you have, visitation twice a month. Are you on time? Do you do the things you said you were going to do on the visitation? Do you reach out to them on the off weeks where you say, hey, I'm going to talk to you on Sunday night at 6? I'm going to send you a video of a story that we're going to read when you come. Do what you say you were going to do. And that is just, and keep, if you're not a dude who's used to keeping his word, keep the promises small. Something you can hit on a consistent basis and then grow from that. It's damaging when you do these grandiose things and you don't deliver. You got to be a deliverer. because your kids are clocking that. So the damage to them is like, this dude is unreliable. I love him, but I'm going to tune him out. You know, he's not going to have this place in our heart because, yeah, he's my dad. There's always going to be this connection, but I can't count.
And kids probably more likely on a subconscious level, I'm just not putting myself through that emotionally. Like they probably can't really articulate that. And when I say probably, they can't. They're not able to, depending on their age, to articulate that. But like emotionally, I'm not going through this again.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna block it. I'm
Yeah.
closing that door. I'll look at you through the peephole, but I'm not opening for you.
Yeah. They do. They'll vote with their feet.
Mhm.
And, you know, we said in previous episodes, you know, like when my kids were going through those preteen years, middle school age years, they voted with their feet. So it was their weekend or my weekend. They would stay down with their mom many times
Mhm.
because that was just the greater pull, you know? So, you know, be consistent. I'd say, you know, to keep it simple, you know, be consistent. Do what you said you were going to do. Do it over and over and over and over again until it's just the norm.
It's really important to sit down and reflect and look at your current behaviors and habits. And if they are aligning with your values or pointing in that direction, if they're allowing you to build towards accomplishing or living those values,
Right.
or they're not. And if they're not, after that reflection,
Right.
how can I change my daily behaviors, my daily habits,
Right.
so that arrow starts pointing in the direction of my values?
Yeah. And to make that change, if you're not that kind of person, right, you got to surround yourself with people that are like that are pulling you toward that. You know, you have a little great saying, what is it, anchors or
Anchors or yankers?
anchors and yankers. And you have to be a person who's around yankers, people who are yanking you towards this new identity that you want to have,
Mhm.
this new set of values that you say you want to have. You got to be around people that have those values and are exercising them every day.
And here's the thing with someone that is a yanker. They have to be in front of you. You can't have someone beside you yanking you lateral.
Right.
Like that's not gonna work.
Right.
You gotta find people
Right.
that have been there, that are better than you at certain things,
Yep.
whether it's working out, whether it's being a dad, and link up. They will yank you for
Yeah. And it's,
might get some rope burn.
you will get some rope burn. You know, you will get exhausted. You will have to pull over to the side of the road of fathering and say, I got to catch my breath because I'm just not used to this strain. But hey, do a couple deep breaths, get back in there, stay in that community of guys that are trying to level up and do what you haven't been able to do up to this point. You've got to. Otherwise, you're not going to tread water.
No.
You know, every day we talked about this early in our episodes. Every day you're not growing and pressing into better fatherhood, you're really falling behind because your kids are getting older and time is going to get away from you.
Yeah. One of the major mistakes we make there is that, and we talked about this a little bit already, is that convenience is so easy. It's so easy. It's so easy that, I'm getting yanked forward as a father. Let me just loosen this rope, sit down and chill. That convenience is a trap. And convenience, what it's going to do, if you continuously take the convenience pathway, slowly going to erode the respect that your children have for you, that adults in your life have for you, and that the respect that you have for yourself.
So can we take it from like the theoretical, when we talk about convenience and we're speaking to the audience, like what is a scenario that comes up in your mind of a man who's faced with a choice and he chooses convenience over something else related to
Yeah, so specifically from fatherhood, let's go with this. You have visitations, and some of those visitations require you to drive an hour. And you're like, this weekend, I don't know if I really want to drive that hour. You chose convenience over your kids. You chose the path where they're going to have less respect for you. Your BM probably doesn't have that much respect for you, even less. And then you're hanging out with your boys that weekend instead of your kids. And they're going, oh, I thought this was your weekend. Oh, yeah, I just couldn't make it down there.
Yeah.
And then you're going to lose respect for yourself because you should have been there. You should have been doing that.
Right.
And you decided, it's too much work.
Yeah.
It's too much work. It's too much work to drive down there, figure out what we're going to do this weekend, make breakfast, and to drive all the way back or whatever the scenario is for you. But you're choosing convenience over your kids.
Yeah.
And that's just one example.
Yeah.
I'm sure men listening right now can think of other things that they've done, I've done in the past where I chose convenience.
Yeah. It could, I think about, we talk about when you have limited time and limited face time with your kids, not missing the first onlys and the last. And you might have to take a whole day off from work to see your kid for 3 minutes in a little recital because of the timing of that recital. on a weekend when you got to work a shift. And that unwillingness to say, yeah, I'm going to forego this income for this experience with my kid. Those are the kind of things we're talking about. It's more convenient to kind of stay with your established schedule than say, I'm a completely up in what I got to do to be in that front row when she comes out and sings this 2-minute song. And then, we go out for some ice cream or something afterwards. Like, you got to do those kind of things. And there's other examples where, man, we both blown it, right? Where you haven't been there. But that's what we're talking about. It's so easy to just fall to what's easy instead of pressing to what's more challenging.
So it's so much easier. Like we said, there's many variables that play into
Yeah.
that from a biological standpoint, but it's also a lack of, I hate to use the term willpower because I think willpower is so fickle, right? We have a lot of it one time at one moment in the day, then we get tired and we don't have as much, but it's really that willingness to press on. I'm reading a book called Endure by Cameron Haynes, and he talks about running these ultra marathons.
Which I would never do, by the way.
And he said, before you start, you already know you're about to experience some excruciating pain. Like that, I've already accepted that. That's already going to occur. And that's what we need to do as men and as fathers. There's going to be some pain.
Yes.
There's going to be some moments when you're like, I don't know if I can go.
Yeah.
Because you're on mile 48 of the ultra marathon.
And you got what, 52 more miles to go?
Yeah, that's it.
Something like it.
But you got to go.
Yeah.
Because it's more than just what you are doing for yourself.
Yeah.
It's what you're doing for your children.
Yeah.
And that is such a big thing, to step outside your ego and say, this is not just about me right now.
Yeah.
It's about my 3 kids, my 4 kids, my 1 child, whatever it may be. If you can step out of that and say, all right, I'm working towards this. I'm working towards building a better generation in my family's lineage.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny. We were kidding about the whole ultra marathon thing. And it's like, man, not running 100 miles, but it's a great parallel to parenting.
Yeah.
It's a great parallel to partnering. Like, you don't know that you're going to run an endurance race when that baby comes home, but you're running an endurance race, gentlemen. You're running an endurance race with their mom, whether or not you're with them. Hey, you fortunate enough to get, repartner with somebody, you've done the work and the relationship's tight. You're running an ultra marathon with that person. And, and it just hit me when you were saying, it's like, that is exactly what you're doing when you sign up for parenting.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's going to be some pays where you're going to be, times you're on the side of the road throwing up because you just are at your limit. You're going farther than your parents ever did. Your dad ever, rode, and you throwing your guts up, and you wipe your face and you get back on there and you take another step.
Absolutely.
But that's what it is. And that's I'm telling you, if we could instill one thing in you, is just keep going.
He says a great thing, and his saying is keep hammering.
Keep hammering.
Keep hammering, man. At one part of the book, he says this, and I told you this during the pre-show, but he goes, at mile 48, I was in the worst pain of my life, the worst pain I've ever experienced in life. And then he goes, and about 2 hours later, I was in the worst pain of my life.
I was looking forward to what mile 48 felt like. I want to get back to that.
But that's what fatherhood's like. When you're waking up at 3 a.m. when it's a newborn, that's some of the worst pain. You're like, damn, I just got up at 3 a.m. I was up at midnight. I got to be up at 4:30 for work. You're like, and you're just,
I'm going back to sleep.
And that's at that moment, you're like, wow, this fatherhood stuff is rough. And then, then they're going through those terrible 2 years, and you're like, maybe this is the worst as it can get. Yeah. And then you break up with their mother, and you're like, no, this is as bad as it can get. Then you in court and the judge is cursing at you. And you're like, no, this is as bad as it can get. Then you're paying child support.
Okay.
So you got to be ready.
You do.
And you got to fight through it all.
You do. And you, like what you said, you got to keep hammering and becoming a better man as you run, right? You're becoming a better runner, right? But, but I was just thinking about some of those. I was like, yeah.
Yeah,
it is. But, like we said from the beginning, a year ago, we're with you guys on the journey. And we want you to be the kind of men that make those choices to do the difficult things, because in the long term, it'll equip you to be the man you need to be for your kids.
You just can't say, I'd die for my kids. Prove it.
Right.
Prove it through your daily habits and behaviors. One of the things that I'm well aware of is that the cost of staying the same for the sake of peace is so high. It's Elon Musk money. You don't have enough, and neither does he. It's not worth it. You need to grow. How do men stay in an effort to stay the same? Let me rewind. How do men, or why do men? No, I think how's a better term. How are men going about their daily lives? They're like, I'm just going to keep the peace, so I'm just going to keep everything the same, keep myself the same. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think it depends on how you were raised. Like, well, I'll say for me, if you have an image of a guy, either your dad or the guys you grew up around a little older that were, like happy wife, happy life, right? And I think there's some credence to that, but you got to be willing to say, nah, this is going to be the standard. We're at this, or nah, that's the boundary. But if you haven't seen a guy healthily do that, it's easy to default to, I just don't want you all that fussing. I don't want to press to that stress. I know it's going to be this. I'll get to discipline the kids. I need to discipline them, 13 times about a thing. I'm really tired. I'm going to just stop at 7. They just do what they want the other 6 times, right? Even though I told them don't do X, Y, and Z.
Because you want to keep the peace.
Because you want to keep the peace. So I think there's peacekeepers and then there's peacemakers. Peacemakers say, look, I'm willing to do and have uncomfortable conversations to get to the point where all of us understand what the standard is and we're all doing what we need to do to work towards that. But it's that, I think it's that willingness to sit in that uncomfortableness and be the bully, the bad guy, the one who's stirring up stuff in order to get to a better place. And that's a difference. That I'm not going to be quiet. It's like in our line of work, it's like, nah, this is not working. So we're not going to pretend like it's working. We got to do something different. So let's stir some mess up, right? So a peacemaker will stir it up with the end goal saying, I want to produce something better. Peacekeepers are like, I'm going to go along to get along because it's too much stress. For whatever reason, it's too much stress. It's not worth the bother. But it's got to be worth the bother if you want to grow. It's got to be worth the bother. The cost is, going back to our first point, when you don't stir it up and you don't move towards your value, you settle and deceive yourself because you remain the same.
Because you're leaning into the convenience.
That's it. So, and all of us are faced with that every day in big choices and little small choices, right? But the cost is the cost is a regret of looking back over your life and saying, I could have chosen this at these different times, and I didn't. And now I'm essentially the same man, which is a worse man because I'm the same man, but I'm older with less time.
I think the concept that you're talking about there is peace through strength, right? I exude strength, I display strength, and that gives my family and my kids peace. We're going to have these difficult conversations. It takes strength to have those difficult conversations. It's convenient and comfortable not to have those conversations with the BM, with the children, whatever it may be. But there's a fine balancing act with that, right? So let's take some geopolitical stuff that's occurring right now, right? The United States, whatever side you're on, whatever it is, what it is attempting to create peace through exhibiting strength.
Okay.
Geopolitically, right? We have the Venezuela situation, we have Greenland going on, but that's a fine balancing act. Because at what point do you cross the line where you're not going to be creating peace? You're going to be creating conflict because you push too hard. And as a father and as a man, how do we walk that?
Yeah, I think with your kids will tell you when, Dad, that's a little too high. And then, we talked about some stuff recently, with older kids where it's like, hey, I'm seeing something happen or some circumstances happen. I come in, at 8 out of 10 on the volume, and you really only can tolerate 4 out of 10 on the volume. And you let me know. So then I have a choice there. It's like, no, I'm going to turn it up to 10 out of 10 on the volume. Well, and then the risk is I'm not even going, I'm going to take the noise canceling earphones off and not even listen to you. So it's like, okay, let me sit back. The music, the message is still good. It's just a little too loud for this child at this moment. So let me turn it to 3.5. And then over time, work it up to 4. And then we're going to work it up to 5. And then life is going to carry the volume to 6. it takes a measured dad who's saying, "No, I'm not going to compromise on the standard or my love for you, but I'm mature enough, I've reflected enough to make my messaging more nuanced, so it's palatable for you. You can digest it." Real example is that, one son's like that. I really can't hear that right now. What I needed from you was this, and I was in my feelings for a second, John. I was like, "The kid, what you feel you need? I love you, but do." But I had to sit with that, and then get some older men who knew him well.
Yeah.
Say, "Hey, you may want to look at it like this." And I had a choice at that moment. It's like, man, bump y'all jokers. That's my son. Y'all know. But I had to respect that they had a different perspective, and they were both saying the same thing. They didn't know one another.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's, hey, my message is still out there, but let's go sit down, get an old fashioned, and just be father and son. So that's the thing, is we're willing to do those difficult things.
Yeah.
Have difficult conversations, but we're able to recalibrate.
And all in an effort to live up to the values that we've set for ourselves.
That's it.
That's it. Right there. Big time.
Yeah.
Why does growth often require outgrowing those same people that we're so familiar with? So again, your growth as a man and as a father is often, man, I messed that up again. Your growth as a man and as a father is going to require you to outgrow people that have been in your circle for a long time.
Yeah. Unless they're growing with you. Unless you have some cats, and it's rare, they're saying, hey, I'm tracking on the same journey. But it goes back to point number 3. That convenience of your friend and acquaintance group is like an old pair of jeans. Just, you pull them on, you just know how they fit. You ain't got to think about it. But unless you have some rabble-rousers in there who are pulling you towards a different space as a dad, man, it's easy to coast. It's the default setting. So you have to make some changes. And it's not like you meet with a guy and say, I'm kicking you to the third rung. In my friend group, you used to be in the inner circle, now you're in the third circle, right? It's not that, but you vote with your time. So now your time, you might be spending more time, or diving into more resources that are growing you, challenging you. But you got to. There's no growth without challenge, discipline, and a little bit of pain.
And you're going to have to, a lot of times, go in search of these individuals. You're going to have to, let me join this online group of men. Let me find these men over here. And then you'll find the fathers in that group that are doing certain things. What? You're going to read a book. That author of that book might become a mentor for you. You might reach out to him on social media and they'll be like, yo, what's up?
Yeah.
Or he's that unknown mentor.
Yeah.
Right? That constantly is yanking you. He doesn't know he's doing it, but he's just pulling everybody along that follows him.
He's putting his material out for his life, right? And you're like, hey, man, that resonates. I have my son, one of my sons has a really influential connect, government, different fingers and different things. And he reached out to me. We were playing golf, maybe about 6 months ago. And he said, Kelly, give some thought to getting a men group together of guys that are really serious about their relationship. They really want to peel the cover back. And, y'all start a little small group where you just keep one another accountable, like ultra accountable to grow your marriages. And I was like, I don't know if my boys are ready for that, man. Like, I don't know. Like, I've sat down with him a couple times, and he's, you meet with a guy like that, it's like, you just can't BS him. Oh. Like, he's seen too much. He does stack the wins in his marriage. He's like married 42 years, 45 years. Like, I am not going to be able to jive this dude.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he's successful in business, successful relationships with other people and stuff like that. It's like, who would I want to expose to that fire? Like, you're one of them, but
I ain't married yet.
I mean, you're moving in that direction. Yeah. And it's that kind of thing where it's like, you better be putting stuff in your toolbox before you say I do. And when you hear from a 37-year-old guy say, man, I had this choice between my business and my relationship, and the relationship lost. And then I had to come back and rebuild. Like, when you hear from cats like that, it's like, oh, okay. Let me recalibrate. But anyway, the point is, you got to be around people that's going to make you grow.
Before we go today, I do want to emphasize this part. We did talk about at the beginning of this that most men that are fathers are going to have similar values.
Yes.
But you do need to check those values before you start this growth process.
Yes.
Because sometimes our values are misaligned, or we start valuing things unequally or inappropriately.
What do you mean?
Like, I might value going out on Friday nights really highly, but that value contradicts other values that I have. like spending time with my quality time with my children,
Right.
building a fit body, whatever
Right.
it may be.
Yeah.
So that reflection, all right, here's my values. What do I honestly and authentically value at a fundamental level?
Mm.
And then can I align my behaviors and habits in that direction?
Yeah. You know, I think David Sender says, time displays intention. What you spend your time on displays your intentions. You might have had, you know, great ideas, but show me your date book. Show me how you track your time. But, and that's the challenge we're pushing into, particularly in the month of January, is like, hey, do your words and your actions align? And if not, how you put yourself in a position where they align more and more every day. With your kids with limited time, you don't have time to be wasting being misaligned. So clarify what's important and then make those votes in the areas where, you know, it's going to benefit you and your kids, or your kids and then you.
And at the end of the day, B,
Yeah.
you can say heroic stuff like I die for my kids,
Mm-hmm.
or you can do heroic things like read that book every night to your 6-year-old for 365 days.
That's
So
it.
you either say it or you can
Or
do
you
it.
So be about it, gentlemen.
All right, we
That's
good?
it. We good.
That's a wrap, man.
That's good.
Until next time, I'm John.
And I'm Kelly. Peace.